Grace and peace, beloved of God. It's Apostle Cheryl L. Richardson here with another um, session of Shatter the Silence. I'm going to tag a couple of you all so that you know that we're live, and hopefully you can join us. I'm going to tag as many of you as I can because y'all know I get distracted easily. Pray that you're having an amazing day. And we're coming live to you on Sunday this week, just to see if this is better for you guys. Many of you are between church services at this point, or preparing dinner, or just hanging out with your family. And we want you to spend a few minutes with us on today, okay? So again, this is Apostle Cheryl L. Richardson, and we are here with another broadcast of Shatter the Silence. And this week's topic is domestic violence and stalking, which is a serious, serious thing. I think oftentimes people don't understand how serious it is. We encourage you to go back on our pages, all of our pages, and check back on any of our Facebook Lives that you may have missed. We've done 19 or 20 of them by now, so there's plenty of information out there for you guys. And if you all will go on and if you would go ahead and share, that'd be awesome, because you know I'm not good at this. Remembering to say share. Hey, Dr. Michael Brown, thanks for joining. Prophet Roger, hey, how are you? Awesome, awesome. Please share, please share, please share. You know, I'm probably not going to remember to say it too many more times. But today we're going to be talking about domestic violence and stalking. We've done 18 or 19 of these already, covering a wide range of topics. It's important that people understand that domestic violence is not just about physical abuse, that there's a plethora of abuse that occurs before it even gets to the place where it becomes physical. Leah, hey. Hi, Stephanie. And it's important that we understand that it's also a tremendous problem in churches, across denominational lines, across the world, globally, across socioeconomic lines. So all these categories that we use to distinguish ourselves from one another and to build walls between one another, there's no demographic that can point a finger at another demographic when it comes to domestic violence. It is a nightmare in all demographics, okay? It's important to us that you understand also that anyone can be a victim and anyone can be an abuser. It does not matter how educated. It does not matter how financially stable. It doesn't matter how intelligent, what kind of family you've come from, what neighborhood you grew up in, what type of house you live in now. You might live in a pup tent. You might live in a homeless shelter. You may live in a mansion. You are capable of being a victim and or an abuser. So no one is exempt from that. But today we're going to focus on stalking because it is a major problem. And I think people don't understand how prevalent it is. Hey, Apostle Stephanie. So let's look at some definitions for what stalking is, okay? Because I think sometimes people are being stalked and they don't even understand that that's what's happening. So, according to the Stalking Resource Center and the National Center for Victims of Crime, stalking is unwanted and or repeated surveillance by an individual or a group toward another person. I'm going to read that again. Stalking is unwanted and or repeated surveillance by an individual or group toward another person. Now, it's a coercive control tactic, and we've talked about coercive control in another Facebook Live. So you can go back and find that one and bring yourself up to date on all of the ins and outs of coercive control. But when we're talking about coercive control, we're talking about power and control. We're not talking about love. It doesn't matter how many bouquets of flowers you get, how many boxes of candy, how many Rolex watches you may get, okay? These can all be used as coercive control tactics, okay? And it's an indicator when stalking is present that the potential for violence is evident. I mean, it is on the horizon if you are a stalking victim. There's a thin line between just stalking you and actually harming you or even killing you, okay? Now, stalking behaviors are interrelated to harassment and intimidation, okay? And they may include following the victim in person, or check this out, monitoring you from afar, monitoring your devices, putting a GPS on your vehicle. Okay, so there's more than one way to follow. Stalking you on social media, okay? How many have experienced that? People lurking and peeping and watching and never commenting, but they're always watching, okay? Now, stalking, according to Rain, is a pattern of repeated and unwanted, and this is important, repeated and unwanted. So it cannot be that you're entertaining it, that you are responding to it, that you are engaging, because then it becomes normal communication, right? So it's got to be unwanted, and it needs to be repeated, all right? So repeated and unwanted attention, harassment, contact, or any other course of conduct directed at a specific person that will cause a reasonable person to feel fear. So if a reasonable person would experience anxiety because of the attention that they're getting, the unwanted attention that they're getting, the attention that's not being returned, okay, and it makes you nervous and uncomfortable, then that's stalking, okay? It can take many forms, as we said. Number one, it can look like making threats against someone or that person's family and friends. Now, the threat can be direct, I'm going to do this to you, I'm going to do this to your family, or it can be indirect, well, you know bad things happen to people who don't, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so it doesn't have to be that they say it, but the threat can be inferred. It can be delivered in such a way that you understand that something bad's going to happen if they don't get what they want, okay? Number two, non-consensual communication, such as repeated phone calls, emails, text messages, and uninvited gifts. Now, if 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men will have or have experienced domestic violence in their lifetime, a huge number of them have also experienced stalking, okay? The communication is non-consensual, which means we've talked about boundaries. It means that I have established, or I have let you know that I don't want to hear from you. I have cut you off. I'm not engaging. I'm not explaining anything to you. I'm not going through your cousin Ray trying to get a message to you. I don't want anything to do with you. And I've made this clear, okay? Hey, Cozy, I've made this clear that I don't want anything to do with you, okay? Now, normal people would understand if you stop responding that that's a clear indicator, right? That you don't want to talk. So it's not normal for someone to continue, all right, to pursue you when you're not responding at all, okay? That's not normal behavior, okay? The average healthy person will say, they don't want anything to do with me, so I'll just move on, right? But someone who is coming unhinged doesn't get that message. So it's non-consensual communication. So calling you nonstop, blowing up your phone with text messages, emails. And if they're blowing up your phone with text messages or sending you unwanted emails, you'll notice oftentimes that they change in tone, because they're looking for something that works to get a response. So if loving messages and flattery and I'm sorry and, forgive me and come back to me, if that doesn't work, all right, then the monster might surface and they might curse you out, talk about your family, blame you for everything, and then the next communication will be an apology for what they just said, okay? So you'll notice that the communication is erratic. Okay, or it's abnormal in that you're continuing to compliment me and I'm not responding to you. That's not normal either. Hey, Jason. So, non-consensual communication, such as repeated phone calls, emails, text messages, or uninvited gifts. Okay, now if you've ever had a stalker, and I've experienced this, I will come home and there would be expensive jewelry outside the door, and that's creepy because I'm not even talking to you. We are not a thing. We're not a thing, okay? We are not a thing. And why are you buying stuff and leaving it outside my door? Why are you doing that? Okay. So that's not normal. And what you don't want to do is accept the gift. What you don't want to do is put it on and wear it. You don't want to do that. Okay. So it has to be clear that it's non-consensual. It has to be clear. And so this is why boundaries are important in every area of our life. Okay. So number 3. Repeated physical or visual closeness, like waiting for someone to arrive at a certain location, following someone, or even watching someone from a distance. So just every time you look up, you see this vehicle, or every time you look up, you see this person. They're everywhere that you go. They pop up when you go to lunch. They pop up on your job. They pop up in the parking lot. And maybe they approach you, or maybe they don't say anything to you at all. Okay? Either way, it's a tremendous red flag when we are talking about domestic violence. This person is tripping, and it has nothing at all to do with the conversation that you're having with them if it's non-consensual. Hey, cousin. So it's important to remember, it's got to be clear that it's non-consensual, and you cannot allow yourself to get baited into responding, because then it ratchets it up another level altogether. Okay? Hey, my apostle, Ron Tolliver, grace and peace. Number 4, any other behavior used to contact, harass, track, or threaten someone. Okay, now let's talk about cyber stalking, because it's very, very popular. These days, people do it because they can do it from the safety of their keyboard. Okay, they don't have to get anywhere near you, and they can incite fear and anxiety in you just because you know that they are watching. Okay, all right. So cyber stalking is another word for really stalking, but you're using technology to do it, okay? It's the broad term used to describe all forms of stalking that rely on technology, that rely on GPS, that rely on cell phones, that rely on iPads and computers or whatever, okay? An example of this would be persistently sending unwanted communication through the internet, like spamming someone's email inbox or social media platform, constantly badgering on social media, constantly inboxing on social media. So if this happens, right, what do you do? It's important, again, that you not engage, Don't get sucked into explaining, you're getting on my last nerve, leave me alone. I don't want anything to do with you, leave me alone. Block them. Block them. And I'm going to tell you something else. And I didn't even write this down. If someone, and I've experienced this, I had to call a dear friend, a young lady that I had mentored for years. And I said to her, listen, I love you to pieces, but somebody is watching me through your page. We're friends, right? We're friends on social media, and they are gaining access to what's going on in my life because they are watching through you. They're accessing me through you. All right. So I got to cut you off. Don't take it personal. I pray that you don't, but I can't with this person, and I'm not with this person. So that's what I had to do. And this was someone who would reach out and pop up at random times over like a 20-year period with no response from me whatsoever. Hey, Rosalind, no response from me whatsoever. So even if you don't respond, depending on how off their rocker they are, okay, they may very well just try to reach you other ways. And this is what I would say to you. You have to outlast them. That's all you have to do is outlast them. All you got to do is last 1 minute longer than they last, okay? Just outlast them. Assume the position of I'm not responding. Save the messages. Do screenshots, okay? We're going to get to all of this. Report it to the police. And even if they don't want to say it, insist that they take a report. And I would go one step further. When you do save the emails, save the screenshots, do all of that, right? Send it to somebody else, because it's not going to do any good for something to happen to you and nobody knows that this stuff existed, okay? And you can't assume that people that are investigating a situation are going to do their job, or they're even good at doing their job. So you want to assume that someone besides you needs this evidence. They need to know what is happening, okay? They need to know what is happening. So I would say send it to 1 or 2 other people routinely as it comes in. that you report it to the police, that you send it to 2 other people so that somebody knows who is bothering you specifically and that there's evidence to support an investigation if it's needed. Now, am I speaking negatively and like a person doesn't have faith? No, I'm speaking like someone who understands what kind of monsters occupy this planet Earth with us, right? And the Bible says that we should be men in business and that we should count the cost. And so the cost associated with someone getting fixated on you that has a mental health issue or who is just a narcissist it can cost you, right? It can cost you. And so it's important that we be educated about this. Please share so that people understand, because especially as we approach the holidays, it stirs up all kinds of feelings and emotions and loneliness and frustration and anger in people. All right? Everybody's not drinking hot chocolate and feeling amazing. Okay? Some people look back over what they feel like they've lost if they've been in a relationship with you and they become enraged. Okay? All that happy music just irks them, makes them want to hurt you. Okay? And so it's important that we be aware of what's going on around us. We're still talking about cyber stalking. Okay? Now, anyone who continues to contact you, to reach out to you when you have said, I don't want to hear from you, you've got to be clear. Okay? Sometimes we got to forget all that stuff we learned in preschool about being polite and saying please and thank you. Just say, I do not want to talk to you. We don't have anything to talk about. Boom. Don't start explaining why. No is a complete sentence, as I said last week. Okay? Okay. Another thing that they might do is post threatening or personal information about someone on public internet forums. So they may go to a chat room. They may invade your friends list. This is why I say block them. They may contact everybody on your friends list and then start telling lies. Or they may start telling the truth because, I mean, we're not perfect, right? So if you've done something that you're ashamed of and they're aware of it and they've got footage of it, they've got a video of it, they've got screenshots of it, they may post that on social media, right? And so they could post everybody on your friends list, right? And now people are looking at you like you got a problem, okay? So that's also a stalking mechanism, all right? Number 3, video voyeurism. Installing cameras that gives the stalker access to your personal life, right? Installing cameras in your... I've had people close to me have to deal with this. People that I love that discovered little bitty microscopic sized cameras in their house they didn't even know were there. And people who they trusted had put them there. All right. And when they have these devices in your home, in your house or whatever, they can monitor you from wherever. They can be in another state and see and hear everything that's going on inside your home, inside your vehicle. Right. There was a case a couple of years ago where a woman killed herself and killed her husband's girlfriend, right? And she had been sewing listening devices into his jackets. So it didn't matter what he put on, right? It didn't matter what he put on. He had a listening device on him. She heard every single conversation, every single interaction she heard. And it enraged her, okay? So all of that listening and following, when a person is doing this, they're not telling themselves anything positive. They are not saying that you're an amazing person and that they should leave you alone. That is not what they're saying, okay? It takes an internal conversation to get up and get dressed and decide, I'm going to go bother this person who's made it clear that they want nothing to do with me, okay? All right, that's number 1. Then what are you saying to yourself en route to this person's house or job? What are you saying to yourself that keeps fueling that? So there's a constant internal negative conversation that's occurring, and none of it is positive, okay? And something bad will happen if it is not stopped, all right? Okay, so another method is using GPS or other software tracking to monitor without their knowledge or consent. Now, let me put my mental health cap on here just for a second. In a relationship, in any relationship, if you find yourself, okay, not trusting your partner, and now you are sneaking around and you are installing GPSs or listening devices or reading their phone, or that, you're on a slippery slope. You're on a slippery slope, okay? Because that can get out of control really, really quickly. If you follow and listen long enough, and if you are right, and if you're sensing that, you probably are, right? But if you are right, then what? What happens when you get confirmation that this person is not trustworthy? What happens? Do you just leave them alone? Or are you fueling, hey Vic, are you fueling negativity now within yourself? What's going to happen when you find out that they're not trustworthy? What if you're not saying what you think you see? Right? And so here's a rule of thumb that I've used in my own life, right? Because I've been fighting my entire life. So I'm not worried about a fight, not worried about it. Everybody can just do what they have to do, okay? Here's the thing that I learned, something that the Lord taught me, and it will help you to hold on to your peace. And this is not even on my paper. If you find yourself, whoever this is for, in a situation, in a relationship, it can be a friend, it can be an intimate partner, whoever it is, and you have this growing distrust of them, right? What you need to do is walk off. Just don't go dig in and don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do it. It's like Pandora's box. Because at the end of the day, you have to decide, hey Vic, you have to decide that you're going to trust this person and continue to love this person and allow them to maintain the position in your life that you've allowed them access to, right? Or not. At the end of the day. If they are cheating, does that mean they'll cheat again? Not necessarily. It's not unlikely, but not necessarily, right? You are making a decision to trust this person. You're making a decision to trust this person with you, with your life, with who you are as a person, with your hopes and with your dreams, and that's your responsibility. It's your responsibility. And so that's something that the Lord taught me, right? So I don't have to go off, and I don't have to cuss nobody out, and I don't have to come out of character, and I don't have to dishonor God. All I really need to do is accept responsibility for who is close to me. And if I've made a decision and allowed someone close who shouldn't be close, I need to make a different decision concerning that individual. Nobody goes to prison. Nobody wears an orange jumpsuit. Nobody ends up in a coffin, right? Life can go on. And so that's not something that I had intended to talk about, but apparently it's necessary. I'm going to say it again. It is our responsibility who we give access to our lives and the things that matter to us. It is our responsibility to determine how close a person gets. And oftentimes what happens is we move entirely too fast. Oh, well, he goes to church. Okay, the devil goes to church. That means absolutely nothing. It means they occupy the same building that you occupy. Oh, they believe in Jesus. Well, the devil believes and trembles. So what? That is not what you use to determine, okay? We have got to be willing to not get all deep and mystical and to accept responsibility for some of this hurt that we experience is because we let people in that should not have been let in the first place. And if we go back and look at it, the flags were all over the place. We probably got mad with folk when they told us, that's not it. We stopped talking to them. Okay, we stopped talking to the wrong people. We stopped talking to the people who won't sign off on our foolishness oftentimes. Okay, so we're still talking about stalking and how important it is that we assume responsibility for our own life, right? And for our own safety. So another technique that is used is using keystroke technology or spyware to track your computer and phone activity, which means they don't have to be with you. Everything you type, they can read it at their leisure, okay? They can read it, all right? And they're fuming about it, and they're getting angry about it. And then if you complicate it by interacting with them intermittently, right? Now you're fueling it more because now they feel, well, you want to hear from me and you're coming around and I'm gaining ground, okay? And so this is why boundaries are important. Now, those of us who are fivefold ministry leaders, I'm talking to us right now with this next statement. We struggle with appropriate boundaries. We struggle with appropriate boundaries. And I'm not talking about sexually. I'm talking about where we began and end and where another person begins and ends. And at what point is it Jesus' responsibility to make this person okay? All right? And so that can complicate things. That is a common problem. We are not Jesus. Jesus is Jesus, okay? And some of this stuff he has to address because we're not supposed to address it. All right? People have to accept responsibility for who they've allowed into their life. All right? And so we don't have to put a cape on and come in on a stallion and save everybody. We are not going to be able to reach everybody. Everybody is not called to my voice. Everybody is not called to Apostle Stephanie's voice or Prophet Roger's voice, right? Or Apostle Ron Tolliver's voice. We have different people who are assigned to us, and we have to understand when to pour and when to back up and say, I've done all I've been called to do in this situation, okay? Because we can further create a problem. And so for this reason, sometimes those of us in fivefold ministry offices, people are attracted to, okay, listen to me. They are attracted to the anointing on your life. They are drawn to you. This goes with the territory. This is not something that we need to mistake for a lifelong friendship or a relationship or anything else. They are drawn to us because we carry healing innately. I can't go anywhere without people talking to me about stuff that you don't talk to strangers about. They just start talking. If I come across somebody on the hiking trail, I'm in the middle of the woods. Right? I'm the only African American I've seen out there. And they talking to me about stuff. If I'm standing in line, people start talking to me. If I go to a football game, people just randomly start talking to me. My family laughed because I was sitting in a fitting room waiting for a family member to try on some clothes, and this total stranger was telling me their life story. And I could hear the family member laughing in the fitting room. They said, everybody talks to you. So this is not something that we need to confuse with our life partner, someone that we need to be connected at the hip with, right? Don't confuse it for them caring about you as a person. They're hurting. Many people are, right? So they're hurting and they need what we have. And so it's completely natural for them to be drawn to us. Now, having said that, it's important that we establish boundaries because oftentimes they will mistake it for something else. They'll mistake it for something else when in fact they are wounded and you carry the balm that they need to be healed. Okay, so again, it's our responsibility to keep things where they're supposed to be and not mistake the anointing that we carry for something more. All right, because what will happen is this. Just like in any dysfunctional relationship, this is what will happen. They're drawn to you because they are broken. They are drawn to you because they are hurting. And we're still talking about stalking, okay? Because this is how this happens to us in the church. They're drawn to you because you carry this powerful anointing that we can't accept any responsibility for. God has imparted it to us, right? To use to help others. But they're drawn to this. And they feel so much better around you. They feel so much better. They feel peace. They feel protected. They feel secure, which is what the Spirit of God will cause you to feel, right? But that's not us. That's not me and my flesh. That's not you and your flesh, okay? That has nothing to do with us. That's something God has placed on the inside of us. And so we have to make sure that we don't do things that cause people to confuse that with something else. All right? Oh, I feel like I can tell you anything. Well, you can because I'm trustworthy. And I'm not going to violate your confidence. And I'm not going to tell you anything that dishonors God. So you are absolutely safe talking to me. That does not mean I'm going to marry you. And it's not the same thing. It is not. And so we've got to be careful. We have got to be careful that we don't encourage, hey, Herb, my big brother, love you. We have to be careful that we're not encouraging people into a dysfunctional place, because what happens when you don't respond the way that they want you to is that it gets a little crazy. It gets a little crazy because you've got a person who's almost healed thinking that they love you when they in fact don't even know you because of the anointing that's on your life. Okay? You've got to be careful. You got to be, because they were broken when they interacted with you. They just experienced a crisis. They just lost a child. They just gone through a divorce. They just lost their job. Something traumatic has happened, okay? And when someone has experienced trauma, I'm telling you, you don't have to say anything. You can be in Starbucks buying coffee. They will find you. They will radiate to you, okay? And they will feel better just standing next to you. They will feel better just standing next to you. I've had people say to me, I feel like I could get through this if you were here. And then I have to tell them, but God is with you. I don't have to be there. And whenever you all know, those of you who know me knows that the Lord will move me every few years. He might let me stay 2 years, maybe. But he's probably going to move me. And invariably people will say to me, I don't want you to leave. I feel like I need you to be here. Well, you don't need me to be here, because if you needed me to be here, I wouldn't be leaving. Okay? God's got you. And so we've got to be careful that we redirect people to the Lord. We've got to make sure that we do that, because if not, then we create our own dangerous situation, because people don't understand no. They don't understand I can't stay. They don't understand I'm not going to marry you, because we've allowed it to go too far. We've allowed it to go too far, okay? And so you want to remind people about appropriate boundaries. You want to keep a safe distance. You don't want to feed any mental illness that they may be harboring because of the trauma that they've experienced in their life, okay? Common reactions to being stalked are fear, anxiety. Hey, Barbara. Joseph, hello there. Fear and anxiety, okay? Those are normal responses. Being nervous, feeling isolated, feeling stressed, having panic attacks, post-traumatic stress disorder, difficulty concentrating, insomnia, substance abuse, suicidal ideation, and development of depressive symptoms can also happen. Loss of appetite. Erratic sleep pattern, okay? Because it takes a toll. And again, it's a coercive control measure that is often present in domestic violence situations, okay? So we've got to be responsible for who we engage and how we engage them. And the moment it starts heading into a direction that you know you don't want to go in, you need to cut that thing off. You've got to cut it off, okay? Got to cut it off. And again, ministry leaders. And this is why oftentimes you find people starting to expose ministry leaders, starting to post things on social media, posting videos, making allegations, because a boundary has not been established early on, and things have occurred that should not have occurred, and now they've got this over you, okay? It's because the boundaries were non-existent, okay? All right. So it's a very concerning behavior, and it can escalate to dangerousness. Now, I'm going to say this. Even if you're the person who's in a situation and that you feel distrustful and that you're wondering, is this person cheating on me? Is this person really my whoever they're supposed to be to me? And you find yourself wanting to follow them, and you find yourself wanting to eavesdrop and check their phone, you just need to make a decision. I don't trust this person, and in the interest of my mental health and not ending up in an orange jumpsuit or in a coffin, I just need to leave this alone. Okay? If you absolutely cannot trust them, then you need to step off. That's what you need to do. Okay? Because at the end of the day, you're making a decision about trusting them or not trusting them. You don't have a guarantee that they weren't cheating. You don't have a guarantee. And it doesn't matter what they say. You have to decide if you believe it or not. Okay? So again, it comes back to us being responsible, right? All right. So what should you do? What should you do if you find yourself in this situation? All right. I remember growing up in Philadelphia. I think I was about 15 or 16 years old. And there was this guy, and he freaked me out because, I would see him, but we lived near a local store that people walk to all the time. So I'm thinking, okay, he's just going to the store. But then one day he showed a friend of mine some pictures that he had of me. I was just coming and going back and forth to school. And that was scary because I'm thinking, this person has been watching me like that. You got pictures of me going to the bus stop and coming back home. That is not okay, all right? And so that got so serious that, a lot of my best friends at that time were gang members. I was growing up in Philadelphia. They were like having extra brothers. I have one brother who I love dearly, but he's older and he was not home anymore. He had moved. So they would just go with me everywhere. And eventually it just kind of dropped off, but it was almost like he had to know that I wasn't going to be easy to access, okay? And so it can get really, really serious, and it doesn't have to be that you did anything wrong, but you want to monitor how you're interacting with people so that you're not inadvertently feeding it, okay? So what should you do? Number one, try to avoid the person that's stalking you, which is a no-brainer, right? Now, if they're close to you, or if they work with you, or if they're close to your family, then this will be challenging, but you've got to think of ways to make it clear that you don't want any interaction. And you want to make sure that you're not dealing with this in isolation, okay? Number two, if you're being stalked by technology, make it clear that you want them to stop. Which means if they're emailing you or texting you, you want to send a message that says, stop, I do not want to hear from you at all, period. Stop emailing, stop whatever they're doing, stop doing all of that. And that's the only message that you send, okay? No matter what they say after that, you don't respond. You want to establish a clear boundary. Number three, keep all messages, as I said before, as evidence. All emails, all text messages, any mail, any voicemails, but don't respond. Do not respond. Make screenshots, print out the emails, and I'm advising you to share this information, okay, with at least 2 other people so that someone knows and someone can establish that this has been happening. Otherwise, it'll just be hearsay, okay? So you want people to be able to help you if something happens. If this person abducts you, if you suddenly disappear, then the authorities know who they need to look at first, and they have evidence of why. It's not just people throwing names out there, okay? All right. Number 4, inform your family, friends, supervisors, and coworkers. Don't isolate. People need to know that you are having this problem on your job. Let human resources know, okay? Let your supervisor know. At church, let your pastor know, your bishop, your whoever, let somebody know. In every major area of your life, make sure people are aware so that they know what to look for. And if they see this person around, they know this person should not be around you because you've made it clear that you don't want to be bothered. Now, for victims who have left their abuser and who are being stalked by their abuser, it gets really dicey and complicated when you go back and interact with them, because now you're encouraging the interaction, okay? And this is why oftentimes authorities hesitate to even get involved because of that, all right? And so you want to keep in mind, you want to make it clear, I don't want any contact, and you need to stick to that. Now, will that make them go away in the next 5 minutes? Probably not. I told you I dealt with it for 20 years. It just stopped maybe 4 years ago. I think I got one message in an inbox that I don't know whose account they use, but just the Spirit of God said, don't even respond to that. You know how they'll tell you on Messenger, if you respond, and this person will be able to contact you? I did not respond because I knew who that was. I knew who it was. In 20 years, you've not heard my voice in 20 years. We've not had a conversation in 20 years. And the last conversation we had, I said, leave me alone. And I'm not playing. And yet, you continue to try to contact me. This is what I had to tell family. I told family, and this is unconventional, okay? But I'm grateful to God because he'll show me spiritual warfare strategy, and it works. This is what I told family. If you interact with that person, I will no longer interact with you. I'm not trying to tell you who to be friends with. You can be friends with whoever you want to be friends with, and so can I. Okay, so if you choose to maintain a relationship, if you choose to interact with that devil, then that's your choice. And I'm done with you. And that's the way it has to be, because I am not going to live life walking on broken glass and looking over my shoulder. I'm not going to do it. So anyone who's connected to this thing that is trying to force me to be involved with them, I'm cutting off. No exceptions. We make exceptions. And when we do make exceptions, what we have done is we have identified for the enemy exactly who they can use to take us down. That's all we've done. What we've said is, I've got these rules and boundaries in place, and they apply to everybody but my cousin Ray Ray. They apply to everybody but my sister June. They apply to everybody except my cousin so-and-so. Well, you might as well get a bag of popcorn and go sit down, because they're coming for you through that one person that you don't have a boundary with. Okay? Now, I know it sounds hard and it violates everything we've been taught about being nice to people, but it is foolish to be nice to someone who's trying to destroy you. That's foolishness. That is tomfoolery. So I said, and I meant it, no exceptions. No exceptions. If you feel like you must have a relationship with this person, then you can have a relationship with that person, and I won't have a relationship with you. And I'm not mad at you, because you have a right to decide who you're going to be friends with, and so do I. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And I'm telling you, it took, I'm talking about 20 years of trying to talk to me. For what? And I'm not saying anything to you. There will come times when you just want to scream and yell and throw stuff and respond, but they're not listening. So why bother? Say it one time, right? Say it one time. Somebody on here is dealing with this right now. Say it one time and mean it. Say it one time. Mean it, okay? And keep going. And keep going, okay? Keep all your messages, as I said, and make screenshots, print out emails. Make sure at least 2 people have it. Why am I saying 2 people? Because one person might be kind of scary. You don't want to give it to somebody that's kind of timid and easily manipulated, or loyal to the person that's stalking you, no matter how good of a relationship that you think that you may have with them, okay? Make sure 2 people that have a spine have this evidence, all right? And report the stalking to police. They're more likely to take it seriously if you have evidence, right? That this is happening. That you have evidence that this is happening. Keep a record of when you see them and you shouldn't see them. Keep a record of when the car drives past your house. Keep a record of when the car shows up in the parking lot, okay? If you can, get a picture, okay? Make sure other people are aware. Become familiar with computer safety and ways to stay safe online. Now, many of the domestic violence and the family violence organizations have a safety mechanism, whereas you can get off of their website, right? And there's no indication. You can exit safely, and there's no way for the abuser to go back in and see that you were talking to them. Also, they are available with chat, okay? Now, let's talk about how technology is used to stalk and to hurt others, okay? Catfishing. How many know? Good night, Kwame. Thank you. All the way from way overseas. Rest well. Catfishing. How many know what catfishing is? Who knows what catfishing is? Does anyone know? If you know what catfishing is, put it up there. There's a whole television program around catfishing. Nobody? Okay. Catfishing is lying about one's identity online in order to initiate a romantic or sexual relationship. Okay? It's also used to separate you from your money. So catfishing is lying about one's identity. What might that look like? Okay. Someone approaches you online. They start having this conversation, this interaction with you or whatever, right? You're a woman. You think you're talking to a man. It might be a man. You might think you're talking to a 40-year-old man. He might be 70 years old. That's right, Apostle Stephanie. It's a fake identity. That's right, Prophet Roger, pretending to be someone that you are not, okay? And the reason is you're trying to get something from someone that they have a right to say yes or no to, and you are robbing them of an opportunity to make an informed decision, right? And so sometimes you'll have men pretending to be women. You'll have women pretending to be men. You'll have young men pretending to be older. You'll have old men pretending to be younger. All right. And it's here's the thing. So emotionally, you can get entangled, and spiritually, you can establish a soul tie and never have met this person. There have been people who said, I'm engaged to this person, and they've never even seen this person. They've never been in the same room with this person, okay? There have been times when people thought that they were engaged to a man, only to find out it was another woman they had never met, okay? How can you tell? Indicators are you'll never meet them in person. There's always a reason. The cat died. Their mama died. They've got financial constraints. They're suddenly sick. They have to take care of a sick relative. And so they are pretty much tied to that region. And then there are excuses about why you can't come to see them. You'll never be in the same place with them, because if you are, you will know that they're not who they say that they are. Okay, so catfishing, and it happens a lot, especially on social media and especially on these dating sites. Okay, the fact that somebody throws a picture up in a nice profile does not mean that that's who you are interacting with. Okay, so you really don't know until you meet them who you are interacting with. For some people, the emotional connection and the soul tie is enough for them. They're not looking for a relationship. They just need, nurturing in that way. They need to feel connected to someone. And it does not matter to them that they are lying to you about who they are. Okay? So that's catfishing. Cyberbullying is willful, repeated harm inflicted through the use of computers, cell phones, and other electronic devices, often to threaten, harass, or humiliate another. Okay, now that's according to the Cyberbullying Research Center. That's how big a deal this is. There is a Cyberbullying Research Center. Hey, Katie. There's a research center dedicated to cyberbullying. Okay, this is a big deal. And it affects children. It affects teens. It affects adults, okay, because anybody can be victimized in this way. You get people who hide behind their keyboard and they do hurtful things. They say hurtful things, okay? Number 3, cyber stalking by monitoring someone's whereabouts with GPS or other tracking systems, or persistently contacting someone against their will through text, email, social media, or other digital platforms. Okay, with the key word being against their will. So you've got to make it clear. You got to lay down that gauntlet and make it clear. Spell it out. I do not want to hear from you at all. Do not contact me. And that needs to be your last conversation with them. Okay. Number 4, distributing or threatening to distribute sexual or intimate images of someone without their consent, which is also known as revenge porn or digital sexual assault. Okay, so distributing or threatening to distribute sexual or intimate images. Now, this is not on my paper, but I'm going to say this. It's important, especially if you're a believer, that you just don't do things that dishonor God. If you don't do things that dishonor God, then people can't put it out there that you did it, right? And so when we deviate, when we do these things, when we expose ourselves sexually, when we agree to explicit photos, when we agree to these things, all right? And then we have to tell this person no at some point. The fact that it became necessary to tell them no was an indication that you didn't do your due diligence up front, because you probably should have known that it was no before you took your clothes off and agreed to take these pictures. Okay, so once you've done that, they've got all this power and all this control. Okay. And they can distribute it. They can threaten to distribute it. And it's hard because people will then form opinions about who you are as a person. They will form opinions about your character. All right, based on these pictures that appear to be you and are inappropriate and are circulating on the internet. Okay. And there's no getting it back. I mean, once it's out there, all it takes is one person to do a screen grab. And now it's, it doesn't matter. You can go to Facebook, you can go to Twitter, you can go to Instagram, Pinterest, and ask them to delete it. I don't know if they will or not, but as long as somebody's got it, it's not gone. Okay? All right. Number 5, hacking into someone's online accounts or devices to steal personal images or info not intended for public sharing. All right? So you want to be careful with your passwords. You want to be careful with the people that you are interacting with on social media. And you want to be careful with the things that you forward. This is not on my paper either. But these things that people like to pass on with flashing lights and things like this, listen to me. Usually they have a virus attached to them. And here's the other thing. If the message says, you need to be careful because I received a message from you, blah, 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 and don't accept any friend requests from so-and-so because they are a hacker, blah, 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 please pass this on. Let me ask you something. If you're passing it on to me and you've not received a message from me, why are you passing that on to me? So we've got to think about what we're doing. We are randomly passing things on to everybody when in fact it's a lie. If you did not receive a friend request from me, why are you sending me something that says you received a friend request from me? Okay? That's how you know it's a trap. And so the hoax is that you are forwarding this virus through everybody's social media platform, okay? And the amazing thing is it doesn't work just to tell people that. So sometimes I say, listen, did you actually receive something from me? Did you receive a friend request from me? No. Well, then why would you send me this? So we have to stop just getting on the bandwagon, right? Getting on the bandwagon and forwarding stuff. Contributing to someone's demise, contributing to someone's downfall, contributing to someone's account actually being hacked because we did not assume responsibility, right? For making sure that what we forward is the truth, that it is accurate. So if we just do what's right, we can avoid a whole lot of anguish, okay? All right, back to my notes. Harassing someone through an online gaming platform, okay? So that happens. Getting into these chat rooms and denigrating someone or you talking about them, spreading rumors about them. Posting embarrassing, shaming, sensitive, or otherwise inappropriate information about someone on social media, whether it is true or not. I remember going to a church, and there was a young lady there who, she was like the caretaker, I guess, for this elderly gentleman who had a lot of money. He had adult children, and he was wanting to buy her lavish gifts and send her on a vacation and buy her jewelry and get her car repaired. And his children became upset because they felt that this person was taking advantage of him. And I think he had dementia or the early stages of dementia. But he was very, very elderly. You know what they did? Hey, Dexter, this is what they did. And it just blows my mind when I think about it now. They made up flyers. And they talked about this person. They named her. And they said that she was stealing from their father, that she was taking advantage of him, and that he had spent this much money on her. And they put it on everybody's windshield, including mine. You come out of church and this is on your windshield. Okay? That's a coercive control method. That's a shaming method, okay? And although many people probably sided with her, I'm sure many people were looking at her sideways and saying, well, why would you let him send you on a cruise? And why would you accept this gift? And why would you're supposed to be his caretaker, right? And so it's important that we have appropriate boundaries in place so that it's obvious when an allegation is made that that cannot possibly be the truth, okay? All right, so another antic is pressuring you to send explicit images of yourself via email, chat, text, photos, videos, or emojis that are unwelcome or unsolicited, okay? And so many people get involved in these online dating situations, right? And they, send me pictures. My question is, didn't your profile have a picture on it? Why do they need more pictures? And why do they need them not sent through the dating site? Why do they want them sent to their email? Okay, we got to think about what we are doing. Okay, all right. Another method is taking sexually explicit pictures or videos of someone without their consent. All right. Another one is trolling or deliberately posting upsetting or provocative statements or photos in order to provoke others. And we see this all the time on social media. When I see it, I just keep scrolling because my thought process is if you've got something to say to somebody, would you please just say it to the somebody that you need to say it to and stop acting like it's a prophetic word? Stop it. Stop it. That's foolishness, okay? Unsolicited or unwanted sharing of pornography or pornographic images, which means if someone's sending you pornographic material and you're not asking for it, you didn't ask them for it, you're not interested in it, okay? So that's another control method, okay? Safety precautions. Set a passcode on your phone and other devices, okay? Set a passcode and then don't tell people what it is. Just an aside, okay? Google yourself and remove any pics or information that could be used against you. Anything that you don't want public, delete it. Delete it, okay? Do not open messages from unknown senders, okay? Abusers will often establish fake accounts in an attempt to test the trustworthiness of the victim. They will establish fake accounts to gain entrance to domestic violence support groups. This is why, okay, the Lord had us to establish Dominion Over Domestic Violence. It's a faith-based group and it's closed. And my directive from the Lord is that it is not to grow to be thousands and thousands of people. There's no safety in there. I promise you, if a group is that big, there are people in there that you would not be interacting with if you knew who they truly were. Okay? And so, in a forum like that, where you have thousands of people, there's no real way for someone to effectively gatekeep and know exactly who people are. Now, for our closed group, I'm checking you out. I'm checking you out before I let you in. I'm checking you out before I let you in. And if you get in there and lose your mind, I'm putting you out. No exceptions, okay? Because it's got to be a safe place. It has to be a place where people can share, whether they're a ministry leader, whether they are a lay person, whether they are not a person of faith at all and they just need support. We have people in the group who come to lend support and who then find out that they need support, and that is fine. But we are committed to it being a safe place, okay? And so we're not growing to thousands and thousands. We are not going to do that. That's not going to happen. And I am personally checking every single person that comes in there, all right? And that means that you need to not have established your social media platform yesterday and you got 2 whole friends, okay? Because then I know you are fake. And you trying to get inside and you looking for somebody, okay? And so you want to be careful about accepting friend requests from people. Listen. Say you get a friend request and you check and they got 3 friends in common with you. Who are the 3 people? What kind of judgment do they have, okay? I've got 19,000 followers on our ministry Facebook page, over 1,000 on my personal page, and a couple of hundred on my Apostle Cheryl Richardson page, right? And I'm scrutinizing these people. I am scrutinizing these people, okay? Now, if I get a friend request, I think I got 20 friend requests sitting out there right now that I probably would never accept because they don't feel right to me, all right? They may have 3 or 4 people in common with me, but who are the people that they have in common with me? If the people that they have in common with me are people who accept every single friend request that they get, that is not a good indicator to me. If I go to your Facebook page and I see you've accepted all these people, right? And then I go to the person's page and they got all this craziness on their page, I'm looking at you sideways. And what I know is the fact that you have them as a friend is probably a reason that I don't want them as a friend because you've not vetted them. Don't need to say that again. I am so serious. There are people, and I love them, they accept every single friend request because it strokes their ego. It strokes their ego. It could be Jack the Ripper. It could be a serial killer. They don't even know. They've not even checked. The person asked, they said yes. Horrible boundaries. Okay? So if I know that that's your MO and you are the person that I have in common with this other person, I'm telling them no, because I don't trust your judgment. I'm just saying. All right. Limit what personal information you put online, okay? Like your personal email address. I don't have my personal phone number online, and I don't have my personal email address online. You can inbox me, okay? You can inbox me. That's what you can do, okay? I'm not giving you access to my personal no life. It doesn't, 19,000 people don't need my personal phone number. They do not. And especially if, in terms of ministry, I'm pointing you back to the Lord anyway. That's who you need to be in contact with. For real, okay? You don't need my personal phone number. You do not, all right? If you have a webcam on your iPad or your laptop, put a sticker over it when you're not actively using it, because it is possible for people to hack into your system, and now they got the microphone, they got the camera into your home and into your personal life, okay? And this is how they get things that they can maybe try to use coercive control with you on later, okay? Now, there's actually a National Stalking Awareness Month, and it is in January, okay? So in January, it's National Stalking Awareness Month. And you know something has become a great problem when it gets a month, right, out of the year to be recognized. I'm going to share some statistics with you, and then we'll be done, okay? If you have any questions or comments, feel free to put them in, share them. Feel free to start a watch party later with this video if you want to. We are committed to raising awareness about domestic violence. It is what we are mandated to do in this season. We are preparing for global travel next year, and we've gotten invitations to raise awareness in other nations about domestic violence and how it's impacting the church in particular, okay? All right, so according to the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, are you ready? If someone would put this up, these facts up that I'm about to share, I would greatly appreciate it. 76% of women murdered by an intimate partner were stalked first. 76% of women murdered by an intimate partner were stalked first. 76%. Okay? 85% of women who survived murder attempts were stalked. So now the first statistic I gave you was that 76% of women that were murdered by an intimate partner first experienced stalking, okay? And then 85% of women who survived murder attempts were stalked before they were murdered, okay? 81% of women who were stalked by a current or former husband or cohabitating partner were also physically assaulted by that partner, and 31% were sexually assaulted. 81% of women who were stalked by a current or former husband or cohabitating partner were physically assaulted by that partner. So that means, thank you, Prophet Roger. So that means that when the physical assault starts, all this other stuff is connected to it, okay? The second statistics that I read was 85% of women who survived murder attempts were stalked. All right? Then 81% of women who were stalked by a current or former husband or cohabitating partner were also physically assaulted by that partner. 81% of them experienced physical assault. Okay? 31% of them were sexually assaulted. 89% of femicide victims who had been physically assaulted before their murder were also stalked in the last year before their murder. So what does that tell us? That tells us that if someone is stalking you, all right? If someone is stalking you, there is a 89% chance that they're going to end up murdering you if you don't take precautions, okay? 89% of femicide victims who had been physically assaulted before their murder were also stalked in the last year before their murder. All right? 54% of femicide victims reported stalking to the police before they were killed by their stalker. 54% of femicide victims reported stalking to the police before they were killed by their stalkers. Well, Apostle Cheryl, you said we should report it to the police, and that puts us in the 54%? Possibly. So I would say to you this: in addition to reporting it to the police, in addition to grabbing screenshots, in addition to letting people know in every area of your life, work, church, home, social life, that this is happening and who is doing it, make sure that at least 2 people have the evidence. Make sure you stay on top of capturing the evidence. Don't let any attempt to contact you or interact with you or any stalking instance, don't let it go. Document it, okay? And you need a safety plan. You need a plan in case they show up at work. You need a plan in case they show up at home and you're there by yourself. What is the plan? What is the code word that you can use in a crowded room with people when you see this person, all right, that you are terrified of, who's been following you or who's been badgering you? What is it that you can say that won't alert them but will alert someone so that help can be put in place for you? Hey, Jenny. All right. So you need a safety plan. You need a safety plan. It's not enough to just gather the evidence. And it's not enough to just tell the police. Because what did I just say? 54% of femicide victims reported stalking to the police before they were killed by their stalker. All right? There's an incident that I'm thinking about that happened maybe 3 or 4 years ago, where this young lady started off in this relationship with this guy and then decided that it wasn't working. He kind of flipped out. Hey, Jermaine. He kind of flipped out because she wanted to break things off. He started stalking. She took pictures of emails. She took pictures of things that he would send her on the phone. He'd call her 50 and 60 times within an hour, which is literally a call every minute. That's not normal. A call every single minute, that's not normal, okay? She told her parents. She told her friends. She moved out of her place to stay temporarily with friends in order to be safe. But then she went back to her apartment to pick up some things. And he killed her. He murdered her. Had she not gone back, she would likely still be alive. So you need a safety plan. And you need to establish boundaries. And once the plan is in place, you don't deviate from the plan. If you left the place because this person is familiar with this place and they know that you frequent this place, you can safely assume that they are watching this place, assuming that you are going to come back for something because they've been in a relationship with you and they know your pattern, okay? You cannot go back. You cannot go back. And the same thing for a domestic violence victim. You want to go back and have a conversation because you want to set a boundary and let them know that it is over. Number one, if they beat you up, cut you, hurt you, strangled you, they're not valuing your conversation. That's number one. Number two, oftentimes victims are murdered when they go back to get their things or to have that final conversation. Okay? You cannot reason with an unreasonable person. You cannot reason with an unreasonable person, and you cannot reason with a person who is having an entire conversation in their head that does not involve you in the first place. You cannot reason with them. So when you go back to an unsafe place, now you are a sitting duck, okay? And so it's unfortunate that that young woman lost her life. Her family was aware. The police were aware. She had moved to a safe place, but then she went back to pick up something. And that's when he got her. That's when he got her, okay? The impact on victims. Stalking victims are impacted greatly. It's incredibly stressful, okay? It's incredibly stressful because they're constantly concerned about their safety and the safety of loved ones. So, 1 in 7 stalking victims has been forced to move as a result of their victimization. 1 in 7 stalking victims has been forced to move as a result of their victimization. 1 in 8 stalking victims has reported losing work, right? And more than half of them reported losing more than 5 work days because of the stalking situation. All right? They suffer higher rates of depression, anxiety, insomnia, and social dysfunction than the general population. Okay? 86% of victims surveyed reported that their personalities had changed as a result of being stalked. So, what might that look like? Well, if the victim was initially this outgoing, warm, bubbly person, they may find that they have become withdrawn and sullen and isolative. Okay? But they recognize, 86% of the people that were surveyed recognized themselves that their own personality had changed, okay? And then 37% of stalking victims fulfill all of the diagnostic criteria for PTSD. Now, I've got several friends on here that are therapists just like I am. 37% of stalking victims fulfill all of the diagnostic criteria for PTSD. An additional 18% fulfilled all but one of the criteria, which means that they are teetering on the edge of post-traumatic stress disorder. If they had one more symptom, they would be diagnosed with PTSD. Okay? 1 in 4 stalking victims contemplate suicide. 1 in 4. 1 in 4 stalking victims contemplate suicide. Okay? So we've been talking about stalking, the impact that it has on the victim. I've shared with you some statistics regarding how it affects the lives of others, how it is initiated, what feeds it, okay, the dangers associated with it, all right? And we've defined it 2 or 3 different ways. Stalking is a pattern of repeated and unwanted attention, harassment, contact, or any other course of conduct directed at a specific person that will cause a reasonable person to feel fear. Okay? We talked about the fact that it can take many forms, that it can be threats against you, it can be threats against your family or friends if you don't comply with their wishes. It is non-consensual communication, repeated phone calls, emails, text messages, unwanted gifts, okay? What can you do? Make sure that people around you know that this is happening. Make sure that they know specifically who is doing it. Whatever information you have about this person, name, address, phone number, social, whatever you have, so that they can be identified in the event that something should happen to you or that they should attempt to harm you, okay? Or abduct you, all right? Understand that this is not a person, okay, that you can reason with. This is not a person that you can reason with. This is about power and control. This is about owning you and making you a possession, okay? This is not something that you can apply the rules that we learned in preschool about being nice to people and saying please and thank you. You cannot do that in this situation. You're not dealing with someone who has an appreciation for that in the first place, okay? And so I want you to be informed and to be educated. Please share this video. Do what you can to prevent domestic violence, okay? Do what you can. It's so prevalent. And according to the United Nations, they released a report in 2017, and they said that worldwide, the deadliest place for a woman is in her own home, okay? And that should not be. Domestic violence is running rampant. It's in the church, across denominational lines. We know we have this tendency to want to focus on one denomination or the other concerning human trafficking or concerning domestic violence or childhood sexual assault, all right? It's rampant in all denominations. It's represented in every single demographic. Anyone can be a victim. Anyone can be an abuser. If you want to partner with us, it would be greatly appreciated. We have much to do, and most of it's not free. I put at the top of the broadcast our Cash App, which is Judah's Roar, and our PayPal, which is also Judah's Roar, paypal.me/Judah's Roar. So anything that you give, we would greatly appreciate. As we said, we are just got our renewed passport back, so we're glad about that. So we're taking steps to position ourselves to be able to accept the speaking engagements that have been extended to us in the States as well as internationally, so that we can raise awareness about domestic violence, okay? When we wonder why it's so rampant, it's because it has taken a foothold in the church. And in the church, we're supposed to be salt and light. And we've got to get dominion over this in the church before the world outside of the church can stabilize, okay? And that is our responsibility. That is our charge, all right? And so, again, we thank you for joining us on today. We will be back on next week. Hey, Renita, we will be back on next week. Please, 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 please share. Watch the video. If you have any questions about anything that I've said, you can inbox me. If you have questions that you want me to address in the chat, put them up here on the chat, and I promise you I will go back through every single one, and I will respond and answer your questions. And thank you, Prophet Roger, for capturing those stats for me. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. This is Apostle Cheryl L. Richardson. We appreciate you tuning in. We believe, God, that we can get ahead of this thing and that we are stronger together. Amen. We will be back on next week. Blessings to you.